Delineation. Oh my goodness. So unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure many of you guys are well aware of the strong push for delineation, for Black Americans to be known as different and distinct from other groups, right? From Africans who are immigrants coming here that, hey, they not like us, all right? We are Black American, we are foundational, all right? We need to make sure that that is known to everybody else. Now, that being said, I have no issue with delineation. I completely understand it. That's gonna have to be, set for any type of reparations, okay? Now, having said that, people are like, Lucas, you don't even know what's going on. There's a woman, Laura Richardson, who put out a bill, SB-515. The push for delineation is here, bruh. It's coming and there is no stopping it. Now, I go on to see that bill, SB-515, that they've been talking about. I found out that it was signed into law by Gavin Newsom. Now, listen, y'all know how I feel. Y'all know how I feel about Gavin Newsom, all right? Literal Satan in my eyes, a complete POS. Now, anything that Gavin Newsom has signed into law, let me just be perfectly clear in telling you, it's not gonna do anything for you, boo-boo. It's not gonna do not a damn thing for Black Americans. Let me just be clear. After he gave us all this bull crap with reparations, completely killed the bill, killed a whole bunch of other reparations bill, I know y'all don't expect for him to sign something into law that's actually going to give you any type of tangible, any type of benefit for Black Americans. But I'll hold my breath, right? I'll hold my, my beliefs, my bias for Gavin Newsom, and maybe he's changed his ways. So I look into it. For those who don't know, Laura Richardson, Senate for California, represents District 35. So that's, we looking at Inglewood, we looking at Compton, we looking at Wilmington, San Pedro, that's what she's doing. So she introduced the bill, SB-515, and that's what everyone's been reading. Now, there's a little thing when it comes to bills, for those of you who don't know. The bill that is introduced, 10 out of 10, listen, not even 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 is not the bill that's signed into law. I just want people to understand that, because I know a lot of people, as I've been telling people, is to educate yourself on politics so you don't get bamboozled, so you don't get hustled, so you don't get got. People have been reading the bill that was introduced by Laura Richardson. Now, I went and looked up that bill. And in the bill, it talks about how they're going to collect data from the residents. I'm like, okay, we're going to find out, who in the area is Black American, who is freedmen, right? And then it goes on and talks about freedmen and gives a whole, paragraph about the history of freedmen. And that, hey, this is 4 million Black people, 1865. This is from slavery, whoop-de-whoop. I'm like, all right, this actually seems legit. Okay, this actually seems legit. So I then go and look up to see what the bill was that was signed into law. Rest assured, the bill that was signed into law is very different than the bill that was introduced. So all you goofies who keep on reading the bill that was introduced, once again, don't know how politics works. That is not how politics works. The bill, this is something that I keep on warning y'all when it came to Kamala Harris. Now, I know some of y'all don't want, Lucas, why you keep talking about Kamala Harris? The reason why I keep bringing that up is because the same goofies who are praising SB 515 were the same goofies who were lambasting what Kamala Harris was bringing when it came to, hey, her being for reparations. Now, she didn't say anything about cash payments, but she said, hey, there has to be some form of reparations for these group of people. That's what has to happen. Now, in addition to that, she talked about the Black man agenda, right? Where she had a plan for a Black man agenda. Now, people, the same goofies, mind you, were talking about, oh, this is bullcrap. They didn't do nothing for Black men. Oh, she did collard greens in the bathtub. She's not really Black. Oh, she's not talking about cash payment, and completely threw her under the bus. Now, the reason why I didn't do that is because I understand how politics works. Okay, you start off vague, and then after you get into office, we narrow it down. All right, vague for the general election because you don't want to spook white people. You don't want to spook Asians. You don't want to spook the Latinos. Okay. So general, vague. Yeah, I think something needs to be done. Then when you get into office, we narrow it down. Okay, this is what needs to be done. This is what we can do. Yada, yada, yada. That's how that works. But you start off for negotiations. It's the same way that a bill works. They introduce the bill, and then after it goes through the Senate, it goes to the Assembly and all that, it gets cut, chopped down. We don't want that. Remove that. Change that. Fix this, and then we'll pass it. That's how that works. So I was like, yo, listen, why y'all crucifying her for having a jump off point? That's called negotiations, right? That's how that works. You may not want that. She wants this. We want that. The donors want this. This is what can be passed via the Senate. That's how that works. That being said, we go back into the bill. Now, the bill that was passed, that was signed into law by Gavin Newsom, very different. And I want to bring up three changes that I think are very crucial to what was done to the bill. First change is that they crossed out residents and put employees. Right there, bruh. Right then and there, we have just completely crippled the bill. We crippled it. We watered it down immensely. Because now we went from everyone to employees. Okay, so you mean those who are employed. All right, many Black Americans are employed. Not that big of a deal, right? But then they followed up with, when it comes to origins, the ethnic origins of persons, they cross out persons and put what? They put those employed by the city or the county. Now, what that does is that means unless you have a government job, boo-boo, you are not going to be counted.
Come on now, dog.
That's how that works, okay? Unless you have a government job, unless you are employed by the city or the county, the data that they collect for freedmen, for Black Americans who are descendants of chattel slavery, you are not going to be included in that data. It's only government employees. Now, riddle me this, Batman. How does that help with anything about reparations? It doesn't, okay? It doesn't. Because how I see it, because when you look at bills like this, you have to also look at how can they use this and be deceitful? How can these demons be malicious and be harmful, right? Because they've never done anything for our benefit. Never. Okay. Ostensibly, the veneer may be like, well, we're doing this for you guys. Okay. That's what we're doing. We just want to help you all out. All right. That's never the case. That's never how it's implemented. So I'm thinking if they go and get all this data on freedmen government positions, they can simply say, well, look, there is no disparities going on with Black Americans who are descendants from slavery. I don't know what y'all crying about. They seem to be, well employed, and there's many of them that are represented in the workforce. Now, what they also leave out is those that aren't in government jobs. What they also leave out is education, healthcare, housing. That's what they leave out. So by them switching residents to employees, that is the hustle. That's what Gavin Newsom signed into law. Next thing is that we have freedmen. You remember that big old paragraph where they gave the history of freedmen? That's all gone. That's all gone. So the reason why I like that, because it was very specific as to who and what freedmen came from. 4 million, 1865, slavery, United States, right? These were points that you couldn't muddy up the waters. You couldn't say, well, we want to change that. No. That was there. They removed all that, bro. Now, the issue I have with that is that they didn't do that for any other bill. They didn't do that for the recent bill that Newsom signed for immigration. They had Latinos in the bill. They explained how many Latinos there was when it came to immigration and, stopping the ICE and everything. They didn't do that for that bill. They didn't do that for as far as the COVID-19, also known as the Stop Asian Hate Crime bill. They had a whole history of the Asians that were attacked and the history of going on discrimination of the Asian. They didn't do any of that. But when it comes to a Black American bill, they erased all that history, bro. They erased it. And what they did is they referenced a government code, which was, I think, 8310, right? The government code. That's what they go and reference. Now, for those of you goofies who, once again, aren't aware of 8310, 8310 actually does what y'all been crying about, delineation. It makes a distinction between those who are Black Americans who are descendants of chattel slavery, African Americans, and those who are not. Those who, who are, immigrants here, they come from Africa and they have no ancestry to, in this country. That distinction was already made. That government code, 8310, that was created in 2022, pimpin'. Do you not understand? That's already been made. Now, what SB-515 does is that it uses that government code that was established in 2022 and now applies it to the city and the county. That's all that it does when it comes to data. That now we have to get the data from the city and the county. That's it, fam. But that distinction, that delineation that you all keep talking about, that already existed in 2022, bruh. That code, that's where that came about. As far as, African Americans, Caribbean blacks, African blacks, blacks, all that's already existed, my dude. That's already existed. This is why I say it's so extremely important to be politically savvy. The same savviness and the same understanding you have of the NFL, of the NBA, of boxing, of the UFC, that has got to be applied in politics. Because while all these Negroes is celebrating the bill, that is not the bill that was signed into law. And it really cripples it. It's very much watered down. And for some reason, they happen to water down our history and no one else's. They love doing that, okay? So I just want people to be aware of the hustle, of the bamboozle, of the gotcha. Don't hate the messenger. I'm just letting you know this is how these demons work. That's how they work. They'll say something, and then what they sign into law is completely different. So unless you know, hey, who is making these changes? Why are they making these changes? Unless you are by that bill and babysitting that bill, you're not going to be aware. Unless you are actually in contact with Laura Richardson. Hey, what's going on with SB-515? What changes are they making? Because all of this is all documented. You can look it up. It's all documented. Hey, when they voted on it, who said yay, who said nay. Unless you are actually paying attention to that, which I would argue 99% of Americans aren't, okay? And I would say even 99.9% of black people aren't, then it doesn't matter. Because they'll make the changes, they'll cross out whatever they want, and Gavin Newsom will come, sign it into law, and you think you got something. But you didn't. You didn't get it. you didn't get anything. So I just want people to understand that this is important. This is extremely important. All this talk about hashtag cut the check, listen, you need to understand how to go about them cutting the check. And that's not a fun process. They are going to be deceptive. They are going to be wicked. They are going to be malicious. They're going to be, everything that you can think of that the lineage of evil has done, that's what they're going to do. So it's going to be a fight. But in the meantime, between time, you got goofies having you going to comedy shows. How are you going to comedy shows in the middle of a war?
He's out of line, but he's right.
I just wanted to put this video out to really go over the bill, to go over what was signed into law by Gavin P.O.S. Newsom. Anyways, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you guys think, whether or not you believe Lucas, it's still a W, okay, Lucas? At least they documenting, in the government, who freedmen or not, all right? That's still a win, okay? That's a win, all right? You need to stop hating, bro. You need to stop hating. Or if you don't believe, listen, this is why we are where we are, bro. This is why we are where we are. Okay, we don't take this seriously and we just accept crumbs. It's as simple as that. It's literally just be happy. That's the message that I get every single time I cover the hustle. Just be happy. Why are you complaining? Stop pocket watching. Anyways, if you happen to disagree, you know where to find me Thursday through Saturday, disagreement day, number on screen, call in, we duke it out. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to like, share, comment. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe, I missed something. Okay, maybe I did. And subscribe, and all that fun stuff. Till next time, guys, be amazing. It's not gonna do anything for you, boo-boo.